Welcome to Brilliantly British. My name is Lawrence and today I'm going to show you how to make pink strawberry French fancies, or as we like to call them here on the channel, Opal cakes. So as I show you how, please sit back, relax with a cup of tea in hand, putting those feet of yours up to, and enjoy this episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Not too long ago on the channel we shared our recipe for simple frosted French fancies. Cakes that looked and tasted so good that we decided to revisit the recipe with it undergoing yet more brilliantly British treatment. These, my friends, are the results. A batch of Opal cakes, otherwise known as strawberry French fancies. And it is in this episode we'll be sharing the ingredients, tips and tricks needed to make a batch of your own in the comfort of your own homes. So now, with the introductions made and your interest peaking, please allow me to show you how to turn these into these. To begin preparing a fanciful batch of strawberry French fancies, start by first vigorously blending your white caster sugar with lemon zest until aromatic and homogeneous, setting the lemon sugar aside once made. For the cake batter, into a relatively large bowl, turn in soft room temperature butter followed by your neutral cooking oil, both of which should be thoroughly combined before proceeding. To the oil and butter mixture, you'll then want to recall and incorporate your sugar, after perhaps scraping down the sides of your bowl before beating the contents until voluptuous and pale. With the sugar incorporated, season with salt as you beat in your eggs one at a time in order to prevent the emulsion from splitting, with the result being pale and fluffy. At this stage, scrape down the sides of your bowl before setting it aside as you blend your flour, strawberry powder and baking powder, which once made should be sifted into your bowl from earlier on with a splash of milk, ushering in the process of hand folding the contents together until just combined against the undesirable formation of gluten, wasting no time afterwards transferring the batter to your baking pan of choice, ideally a quadrilateral shaped one, leveling the batter out as well as knocking before beginning to bake, leaving you with an ample amount of time to relax and rehydrate with brilliantly British content in hand, making sure, of course, to help us out by liking and subscribing. Thank you. Once ready, douse with rosewater on top, and once unwrapped and overturned, douse also on the underside before leaving it to cool completely nearby. As the cake cools, use the time to prepare your buttercream frosting by first mashing together soft room temperature butter, icing sugar and salt by hand at first, followed by incremental additions of strawberry juice for flavour, which should then usher in the whipping up of the contents with an electric whisk until pale and fluffy, before taking another much needed break as the cake cools with your buttercream on standby, making sure to help us out by liking and subscribing if you haven't done so already. Thank you. Once cool, spread your frosting evenly upon the cake, making sure to reach all sides before slicing into similarly sized pieces. Having temporarily set the cakes aside, simply prepare your icing by combining icing sugar with strawberry juice, making sure to crucially only add more liquid once the previous amount has been homogeneously absorbed by the sugar, as this step often catches people out. Nevertheless, as you proceed, reduce the volume of liquid added each time, with the result being a silky smooth pastel pink icing ready for glazing. From experience, my setup for glazing consisted of a wire rack atop an empty jug to catch any excess icing, as well as a tray, so also topped with a wire rack for the finished product. To prepare the cakes, With a batter or palette knife, caress the buttercream to form a peak atop the cake, and as you shall now see, I chose to glaze 2 cakes at a time in order to ensure that the cakes would be adequately attended to and glazed completely on top and also on the sides, allowing the excess icing to trickle off for roughly 30 seconds afterwards before transferring to the adjacent, vacant wire rack tray. Simply repeat the aforementioned steps, namely the contouring of the buttercream, followed by glazing, with the only change being the need to exchange the jugs once the one being poured has been emptied, before repeating until all cakes have been given their initial coat. Should all go to plan, I assure you that this part will prove to be therapeutic and mesmerizing as you watch the icing flow over the cakes. Then, with all of the cakes given their initial glaze, return them from whence they came, in my case the adjacent chopping board, coating them once more, starting with the older, probably by now semi-hardened pieces. I developed this method as I found it to be a more economical use of icing, which I hope many of you watching should appreciate. Nevertheless, following a second coat, the cakes should be set aside and left to dry at room temperature, as I believe that it is imperative to serve them at room temperature in order for the buttercream to remain soft. But after drying to form a crisp shell which should have a slight sheen to it, you'll be pleased to know that the cakes will now be ready to serve. And so now, with a batch of Opal cakes made and your interest peaking, I think it's high time for tasting, tasting, tasting. Are you ready? Are you steady? 3, 2, 1. Delight. The cake itself is very light, spongy, delicate, short in texture, everything that I wanted it to be. It's also not dry at all. And now comes through the Rosewater aroma. It's beautiful because it's not overpowering. It actually works in harmony with that fantastic strawberry flavor, that natural strawberry flavor, because freeze-dried strawberry powder has gone into the making of this cake. The buttercream top, it's just smooth and just dissolves. It melts on contact with the tongue and it's wonderfully fluffy as well. And of course, there's the crust, the exterior of this cake, that lovely thin coating of icing. It's wonderful, and it's even more delightful an experience to have when a cup of tea is within arm's reach. Honestly, it just cleanses the palate and then just ushers in another bite, which I shall now have. And so, with all of that being said, please go out, get the ingredients for a batch of these strawberry French Fancies, or Opal cakes as we call them here on the channel, because as you're probably now aware, they will be worth it. So please, please, please make these cakes, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you all for allowing me to show you how to make these fantastic cakes. Knowing that you loved this episode, don't forget to click on the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button so that you don't miss any of our new releases. Tell everyone, and I mean everyone, that you know about the brilliantly British food on this channel, and follow us on all of the social media platforms that this channel is on, and I will see you